Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Splintered Grace. It's Monday morning, and we are excited to hear from you. I'm Tina Frank, and I am here with my wonderful, wonderful co host.
Hi everyone. Bonnie Violet here. So glad that you're here. I'm a transgender queer drag queen, and I'm really excited for our episode today.
That's
All
awesome. I
right.
can't wait.
I know, right? So we're gonna try something new. I guess everything is new, right? Because we're
Sure.
still figuring this out. But we're gonna try something new. I've been seeing this. Been seeing people reviewing and having reactions to videos, and there's a particular video that came out recently that it's a Justin Bieber song called "Holy." That last scene reminded me of my family. Actually, my dad was always bringing people home. My dad, when I was younger, dad was always picking up hitchhikers or bringing people from work. Or I mean, we had people who became practically family
Yeah.
after my parents kind of bringing them home for a meal or for a place to crash for the night or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how like Dave and Dave and kind of became part of my life. Even they just do that a lot. So again, that's kind of that generosity.
That's awesome.
You had mentioned before too, like we were going to talk a little bit about like work in this time. Like how is that kind of came up in the conversation, but how has your work been impacted by, I guess, the state of the world at this moment?
Well, we've actually had to just make a decision to not reopen from COVID. We're being very optimistic. It was really hard making that similar announcement to all my team, which I'm hoping they all landed well. We tried to do the best we could to make sure they had all the tools that they needed to hopefully find another opportunity. We're still doing that and partnering with them to be replaced with something that they enjoy. I also tried to encourage them to take the opportunity, maybe if it was available, to expand their, I don't know, education or training, so that when things got a little more, I don't know, normal, if there's even the right, if that's even the right thing to say, that they would be positioned to step into something even better than where they were at. Um, I always had I don't know, I always wanted my team to just pass through our business
Mm.
and be on their way to something greater. Because I think, especially for the type of business that I have had, that's what it was, just there to help give them some groundwork, give them some working capital, develop some disciplines, and move on to that next great thing that they're going to do. So I'm sad that I'm not going to get to be a part of their journey anymore in that regard. But I'm grateful for the time that I was able to have. Gosh, it's been like 12 years
Oh, wow.
to partner with some folks all over the country to be a part of their story. And I pray every day that they're all landed well, that they're moving in the right direction, and that maybe once in a while, if they think of us and the opportunity that we were able to share, that they would give us an extra prayer. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's tough, and I felt guilty for a long time about it. But I've realized that, you know what, change is good, and as uncomfortable and crazy as it can be, um, I know that we're going to figure it out and be all right. And I just got to believe that they're all going to do that as well.
Yeah,
So thanks for asking.
for sure. It's a big loss.
It's definitely an adjustment. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, it freed up some time for me to spend some time with you on Monday mornings. So I'm grateful for that.
Do some new things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I felt like for the like this time also caused me to make some, well, it I don't know, like I guess I had more choice, like I had more choice in my decision to leave work.
Hmm.
Um but it kind of got to a space where there was no choice, because I just knew it was time to be done, and the choice to stay was just, it was no longer a choice on my heart and in my
Yeah.
spirit, and it just
Yeah.
like, for me, it's like now is the time. Like for me, I feel like that's kind of like my little mantra, if you will, with everything. It's like, now is the time. Like if,
Yeah.
if not now, when? I've been dreaming doing this queer spiritual work for since 2000, I think 14 is when I first started a queer chaplain, and it's just kind of been this thing on the side. And so to finally just say, you know what, I'm just going to focus on it.
Doing it.
Happens. Yeah, it feels good. I mean, it's good timing. You know, everything. I believe everything kind of happened. I believe it's helpful to believe that things happen in their own time, and eventually it kind of makes sense. Like maybe there's a reason to it.
Yeah, absolutely there is.
Yeah. So now
Absolutely. Pardon?
So now where do we go? I don't know if playing that song was a good thing, but we tried it.
Doesn't matter. I mean, we had a good conversation, and really that's what it's all about. We want people to be open for conversations, conversations that are maybe make them uncomfortable. There's a passage in the Bible. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called the Prayer of Jabez. A few years ago, it was like a big thing in the church. People liked it. People hated it. Everyone fought about it. The normal stuff that happens on things like that. But there was one thing in there that just landed with me, and I can't give you the exact scripture reference in there. I apologize. That's not my strong point is addresses, but it said, expand my borders. Expand my borders was one of the part of the prayer. Expand my borders. Do something so big in my life that it has to be you. And when I think about opportunities like this, so when I talk about change and it's always good, that's what I believe. I think the business closed. It's going to be fine. I believe we did the best we could with for the people that were still working under us. I'm hoping they're all, but I feel like God can use this to expand our borders. So like you, we stepped out, we tried something different. That's an opportunity for us to expand our borders. Some are going to be successful, some are not, but I'm so excited because I chose and to close the business. In the long run, I could try to rebuild it and do that all again if I wanted to. You chose to step away from a place of employment. But it's interesting that we're both here and we're both in the same expansion opportunity. Think about this. So the expansion point for you is access to the people in the community that God has set me in. For me, the expansion point is opportunity to be heard and potentially seen by the community that God has placed you in. And the fact that He put us in family, I believe, weaves us together for purpose. And so I really feel like this is an opportunity for our borders to expand. However that looks like, it's going to probably be unique for both of us. But I think it's going to be honoring to not only you and I, but to all the people around us. And that to me is what's amazing. And if we look even at this music video, that's what happened. That's what happened for every person in that little video. I thought that's kind of, I think the continuation is the conversation that we continue to have about whatever topic God puts on our heart or what we choose.
Right. Well, I feel like I've heard you say this a little bit too, but I think I just also reached a part in my life where I was just like, in a lot of ways, I was just tired of the same old thing. Like I felt like in a lot of ways, I was just kind of in the same sort of like pattern, if you will. And in a lot of ways, I just wasn't excited about anything. I wasn't maybe hearing new things or learning new things or doing new things as much. And it felt like I really wanted to do that and needed to do that.
Yeah.
And part of that is being in different community with people, doing different things with my day, whatever that might be.
So that's so key, changing up your norm. I've become very systematic as I've gotten older. And I realized, and I'll share something else if you don't mind. Last night I went to a girlfriend's house. She had a group of us over, and we listened to a concert, and a little bit of teaching from a pastor that we all enjoy. And something that she said really, really hit me. I'd have to say this was my takeaway. In addition to the opportunity to disconnect with these women and talk to them, because it was all women. In passing, the Bible study teacher said, there's a rhythm to your season. And I'm like, oh my goodness, because I'm a firm believer, and I think we've all experienced this, that our seasons of our life changes. Like you and I just went into a new season. Yeah. And so the challenge for us is going to be to overcome the old rhythm, which you were just talking about, and understanding the new rhythm that's going to move us into that place where we're going.
Yeah.
And I thought that's really interesting because I have to be honest, because I've been struggling a little bit with the shift. And and people, you talk to people, oh my goodness, how hard to lose a business. That's all done. The decision was made, it's done, it's fine. But it's the shift, it's the normalcies we have, the getting ready for your day, the time you spend doing this, the time you spend doing that, you know what I'm saying? It's all changed.
Mhm.
So the rhythm of our day is gonna change. And so the challenging part is trying to discern what that new rhythm looks and feels like so that it continues to move us to a place of fruitfulness in this season.
Mhm.
Seasons I think are important, and I think they build us up, they discipline us, and they allow us newer opportunities to be kind and loving and even courageous. And so
Mhm.
figuring out that rhythm, I think, is really, really important.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, to like not to get all spiritual and stuff, but I mean, I think, like it's for me, I feel like this, I mean, I feel like, I mean, I feel God in this moment, like,
Mhm, mhm,
and everything that's happening, I feel like, I don't necessarily believe like God is doing it, but it's happening. I don't know. It's happening in a way in which I think it's creating an opportunity for
mhm.
people to have like a shift, like a psychic shift as a whole, as like a group of people. And
Okay.
a bunch of us are kind of experiencing it a little bit differently, but I think as a spiritual person, I've always felt like a big part of, and even like a different kind of spiritual person, if you will. That I mean, I think the key is for me is to be where I'm supposed to be when it's time to say or do the thing that needs to be done in order to cause a positive like shift, if you will, or whatever. But
Okay.
I feel like we're not the only ones who felt like we're not the only ones that our life was maybe, or I'm not the only one whose life was mundane, that felt
Yeah.
like it was full of a bunch of crap that just didn't really matter, that didn't really give me life, that I
Yeah.
was kind of doing it because I had my health care, or I had some money, like I could pay for my rent, or maybe even felt nice to like have a job in like one of the top research, you know,
Yeah.
units
Yeah.
on the globe, but none of that stuff really like was satisfying. None of it was really like, I don't know. It just was kind of like, I don't know. It was just kind of
Yeah.
meh, I
Yeah,
guess.
I hear you. I hear everything. It gets mundane. I think you're right. And I think we all desire that, when you first started, it wasn't like that. It was exciting and all these things you're going to do and the
Mm.
opportunity. No, it wasn't for you.
Not
But
that
so,
recent, at least, but
but so,
no,
yeah.
there,
So I think you're right. There's a lot of people dealing with mundane. So how do we break mundane cycle? How do you think we do that?
well, I mean, I think for a lot of people, it's almost like forced. It's out of pain.
Mm,
I think pain is one of the biggest touchstones for change. I know that that's been my experience. I
yeah.
will I will keep doing the same thing over and over until it freaking hurts, and then I might still do it, and then eventually I'll stop. And one of the things though that I love about being spiritual, about being sober,
Mhm.
about just sober is just a part of my, that's not necessarily what anyone else does, but like for me, that's a big part of my spirituality, or even what brought me to spirituality. But because
Mhm.
I'm more sober, I'm more present, I'm more in the now, I
Yeah.
have a lot less tolerance for pain. So it's like I get in pain really easy and really quick. And so that's great because then that causes me not to sit
Yeah.
in as much,
Yeah.
um, and to make some sort of action, take some sort of action, hopefully sooner, and hopefully not out of a state of like, I mean, because when you make a decision out of pain,
Mhm.
um, deep pain, it's just like kind of making a decision out of fear. You're probably not in the best headspace for it.
Right.
So so like to make a decision under that, unless the decision is just to surrender, is just to surrender to a higher power, to God, and just say, you know what? I don't got this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's wisdom right there you just shared. That's exactly right. I agree with you. I agree with you.
That's a
And
big thing, is just being able to just surrender and go with the flow of like of life. I mean, I think it is out there for us, and I think that we all have an opportunity to live greatly if we just allow ourselves.
I agree. And I hope, we're talking about what do we see or how we perceive when we talk to that video. As I'm hearing you talk, you said how you perceive life, and the first thing that popped into my head was that is so right. We need to pursue and flow in the river of life and not culture,
Hmm.
because I think there's a big difference.
Yeah.
Culture changes. Culture is going to be something that's going to dictate and move and shift based on the next whatever thing. And to be in the river and flow through life, I think that's exactly right, because there's definitely a difference between life and culture. We were just talking about the fashion and how it's coming back to maybe the 80s or the 90s, and that's culture. Yeah, that's culture. I don't want to be stuck in culture. I don't want to be stuck in that. I want to be stuck in life that's flexible, like you said, that you can just go with the flow and allow yourself to just be at ease at different levels, go through that pain motion so that you can keep going and keep flowing and keep going. I think that is an amazing analogy and statement that you made. And yeah, that is really awesome. So live life, not culture. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, well, and
That's
one of the things, and I think sometimes that stuff can be intermixed, or can like, like culture can be, I guess, impacted by, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, definitely. Because we as we're living life, we're flowing in and out of the culture of the life.
right.
And that's where the change comes in. You see the change that you were talking about that can be comfortable or uncomfortable. As the
Mhm.
culture changes and shifts, as we continue to choose the flow of life, that's going to pull us in and out. We're gonna wear the trendy clothes right now, and then we're gonna
I,
not wear the trendy clothes right now. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna we're
right,
gonna
right.
we're gonna show. And I know it goes deeper than that, but I'm just saying that's the growth. The growth that we're feeling as a nation here. This pandemic, as horrifying as it can be for some people, I think there's been a lot of good things that have come out of it as well. I mean, you and I are an example of that. Although I had to do this painful thing and it
Mhm.
affected the people around me and caused them all pain, I'm sure that it did. I think the fact that we both have a new starting point to flow and change and move and experience life in a different capacity, it's no longer going to be mundane.
Mhm.
When I had to choose to not open my business, you know why I chose it? Not because I couldn't rebuild it, not because the opportunity still couldn't be done, but because I didn't want to be doing the same thing I've been doing.
Yeah.
And if I figure if I'm going to work that hard, because I know I'm going to work hard, that's how you go from season to season. I don't want to rebuild something that I've already had.
Mm.
I
Yep.
want to rebuild something that's new. I want to rebuild something that's going to be new, not just for me, but for the people around me. I want to have new experiences. I want to enjoy my life. I believe that the people that were affected by it had that same desire, but they're just stuck in survival.
Mm.
And so I'm hoping that we can get past that and move to that next space. So yeah, a culture definitely has a bearing on it, but I think that the life and the culture still makes a difference as to how we transition from culture to culture.
Indeed.
So my
Indeed.
2 cents.
It's a great 2 cents. Yeah, I was trying to, what's this? What do we say?
Well, you and I never seem to have a problem having a conversation.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the other thing that was kind of coming to mind when you're speaking was just about timing, like,
oh,
I felt like, like our relationship didn't just start 4 episodes ago.
true.
Like, I mean, like, it didn't just start because we, decided to do this podcast together. We actually have been in relationship for 2 years now,
Yeah.
pretty steadily, almost on a weekly basis. So I think, we've been able to kind of be there for one another, like during these times, I guess. Like
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
been there. I mean, I feel like I'm on the other side of a lot of depression and a lot of
Mm,
just kind of like challenge with life. And maybe I don't know if you like you, I felt like you held a lot of that for me the last couple of years.
I sure prayed for you a lot. I still pray for you a lot.
And I appreciate that because
I know you do.
yeah, because I mean I've always just appreciated your chipperness every time you called. You know, it just lifts my spirit. I mean, I love our time when we get to just like talk. And like you said, like half the time, you know, now we're on a podcast, it might feel a little forced or like, what are we going to talk about today? But normally we just like call each other up and say, hey, you know, and talk about whatever might be going
Yeah.
on, you know.
Yeah.
And I know for me, like I've had a really hard time with just, and I don't know if it's just because I'm in my 40s or like where I'm at in my life, but you know, I've had a lot of challenges with just my origins, you know, and like
Mm.
understand kind of, you know, you mentioned like poverty being kind of a state of mind, and and that's not in the sense of like my state of mind needed to change, and
Yeah.
I was struggling with really having the imagination of it being different than what it had always been, and I hadn't realized how much of my
Mm.
life was at that same level. You know, I kind of feel like, and I do feel like, you know, I want to say poverty. It was like but poverty in the sense of like like could be experiencing more abundance in my life, but
Mhm.
I haven't allowed myself to
That's
do that.
exactly right.
And I believe I've been told somewhere, somehow I got the belief that I didn't deserve abundance, and that maybe even abundance was actually kind of like selfish, greedy, not
Mhm.
cute, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's just like kind of a lie, maybe.
It
Um,
definitely is a lie. No, maybe. It definitely is a lie. It
yeah,
definitely is
I
a lie.
feel like you figured that out a little bit more than I have.
Maybe. And I think it's just because I've allowed myself to be more free in my thought processes. You know,
Mhm.
I had my grandkids over here this weekend, and watching them one. He's 12 and she's 10, and it's interesting because she spends more time at her dad's house, and he spends more time at his mom's house. And they have stepdad and a stepmom in both those households as well. So when the two of them come together, the difference in their language is amazing to me. So she comes over and we're working in the garden together, and she's like, "It takes a team to make the dream." That's her perspective. I'm like, "That's a great thing." She said, "My dad told me that." I said, "Well, Grandma's going to use that." And she's like, "Okay, I'll tell Dad." I said, "Tell your dad. Thank you."
Mhm.
And so, because that's perfect. It takes a team to make a dream, because that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. You and I can't be amazing all by ourselves. We just can't. There's too. And we're amazing, but we can't be completely at fullness. Well, then my um, grandson, and I know he's challenging because he's got a lot of things going on, but he tends to be a little more. You know, it's going to turn out like this anyway, so I'm not even going to bother.
Mhm.
And so it was a challenge for me this weekend to take the positive on both of those, and to see how the one another, as they engage one another, how they impact one another. You know, she was positive enough that he got annoyed.
Right.
He was not positive enough that she didn't want to hang out with them.
Mm.
So when I look at these kids, and these are kids just figuring it out, and you know what? They have amazing parents, and parents don't do stuff right. They just don't. I didn't do stuff right. My parents didn't do stuff right. It's just not. I'm not going to be a great grandparent. I mean, good, but I'm going to make mistakes. So when I look at these kids, so I've learned that the first thing I need to do is just be positive and be stable.
Mm.
You know, that's the best thing I can do for the people around me, is to stay positive and to stay stable. You know, when the opportunity comes and that I think that they'll hear me, then I'll offer up something for them to consider. And I think that's another thing that we have to be careful of, because we can offer up things for people to consider, but we can't dictate that they receive it. You know,
Yeah.
that they just they take that on and do whatever. Just like our conversations, when we talk, we share, and we throw things up to one another. Now,
Mhm.
if you run with it, great. If you don't, I don't get mad about that. Same thing. You offer up things to me that are awesome, and sometimes I grab hold of them, sometimes I don't. But that's what the community is, and that's what life is, in my opinion. And that's how that team comes together to make the dream.
Mhm.
And so when we talk about that poverty mentality, we all have a little bit of it. We all carry it. Some of us at different levels than others. But part of the journey that we have is figuring some of that stuff out and surrounding us with people. So sorry, I took the long way around. Back to the grandkids. I'll finish that up. So my challenge this weekend before they left was I always say to them every time they come over, and they appreciate it. One thing I do, I know they're older and it embarrasses the heck out of them, and I love it, especially if they have their friends with them. I stand out at the end of my driveway while they're driving down the street, and I blow them kisses and yell, "I love you," until they go around the corner. My neighbors think I'm a loon. It's fine. I don't even care. But I always say to them before they leave, I hug them, I kiss them, and I say, don't ever forget, you can be who or whatever you want.
Mm.
Don't ever let anyone tell you no. Because I always remember that, according to my Bible, and I've experienced this, that far more than I can think or imagine is available to me. Even just my relationship with you over the last 2 years has opened up for me far more than I could think or imagine, because I wasn't exposed. How can I imagine it if I'm not experiencing it and understanding how it is? You know, I have this little corner of the world, and I think everything is all right here, but it's not. And so if I don't allow myself to open up, and if I don't allow myself to not be stifled by the things that people have around me, because I can't give you something that I don't have. So if you feel joy around me, it's because I have joy. If you feel inspired around me, it's because I'm being inspired. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if we can break those cycles, and if we can be that for the other people, even if they're just, on our podcast, just for one another, the lady at the grocery store, that is defeating poverty. You know, and that equates to how people sell themselves out into the marketplace.
Yeah.
Think about it. You know, they say one person does this job for this amount, this person gets more for it. Well, who was a part of that negotiation? You and whoever was offering the job. I've more than once had someone say, "Oh, this is this much an hour," and I said, "I'm sorry, my qualifications and my expertise demands this much money. You can't have that. Fine, I'm out of here. I don't take the job. I find the right job. I pray about it. I reassess, and I go again."
I only did that this last time I interviewed for this job. The last job that I had was the first time I ever, well, it was the first time that I ever negotiated pay and was
See?
to say no. I mean, I got $20,000 more than what, normally it was, it's not, I didn't make it's a lot of money. Like, it's important. They offered me a little less than 50,000.
Mhm.
By the time I left, I had 70,000. So it's like it was a big difference, but I had to negotiate it. I had to be willing. I was scared. I had to ask other people, like, how do I do this? Like, I don't know how to do it. I had to be really honest with them too. I was
Yeah.
like, hey, I really want this job, but like, I just can't make the move from you've told me
Exactly.
this other job that things are okay to now come to this new job and do this new thing. And it was just like, but it was the first time I'd ever done it. And then I had another opportunity where I applied for a job while I was at that job. And it was at an organization that I really wanted to work with, even when I first moved to San Francisco, like the place I wanted to work. And and it was the first time I ever did an interview where I was interviewing to see if this was a good fit for me.
Yeah. See, that's key. People don't realize they can do that. Anyway, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, it was the first time I was actually like, okay, what's this? What's that? Like it was one of the first times I felt like I was actually like saying, is this job a good fit for me or not? And it wasn't. So
Yeah.
I just not to move forward with it. But that was like one of the first times that I've ever experienced that. And I'm 41 years old and I've had a number of jobs, but so much of me was just thankful to be offered, like,
Yeah.
just felt thankful just to be thought of. And then I just wanted to be picked. Like I
Yeah.
would go to a job interview and I would just be like, pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me,
Because you found acceptance in that. So you had to have a perception shift, right, for lack of a better word, or to do that. But yeah, people don't. I don't think they realize that if we can look at our job situation as you're in the driver's seat. You get to be. And for me, as a Christian woman, I believe that God's already got a path for me, and I believe that He's already paved a way for me because the Word of God says so. But I get stuck in my own head, and I can do things, and I can settle, and it's okay. And God's okay with that. He'll still bless me right there where I settled. But if I'm going to do far more than I can think or imagine, then I have to, one, believe it. Now, I'm not saying go out there and be a drummer if you've never played drums. But I'm saying is assess who you are, assess what you have to offer, assess your joy, because God is our provider, really, at the end of the day. All these things that happen are all under the guise of allowing it to happen or not happen or whatever. And I believe that God is my provider. So who am I is the question that I really have to ask. Who am I? What do I bring to the table in this situation? And do I think I can benefit the people around me in this and still be fruitful and fulfilled? So when I go on a job interview, that's what I ask. For first places I'll look is our places, okay, where are my skill sets? These are the things based on what's in the paper this week. I guess you guys don't newspaper on the internet this week. It's like the newspaper. That I think might be there. Now, out of these, what's a little about the company? So I look, what's about the company? So from there, I'll narrow down to here. But then when I go to my interview, it's not an interview if I'm qualified. It's an interview if they're qualified for me to work there. Because I don't want to be stuck in a place that I'm miserable. Now, I may get in there and be miserable anyway. But at least I made that decision, and then I can start the process to find something different. But I always negotiate, and I didn't always, but I always negotiate. And when I was an employer, just like everybody else, I put out an ad, I put the dollar amount in there, whatever. And I was so surprised at how many people just walked in and said, okay, I'll take that.
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, shoot, that was the bottom part of my range.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then I had some people that walk in and I had some that just was crazy enough to say, thank you for your interview, but you don't pay enough. I almost didn't even show up today. And so then I said, okay, I said, fair question. Thank you for saying that to me. What dollar amount are you available at? And they would tell me if it was in my range, I usually hired them at that dollar amount.
Right.
If it wasn't in my range, I said, you know what? You're amazing. I hope you find that dollar amount you want. Here's some other companies that I know is hiring. Because I just couldn't do it. So I think people need to understand that they have the ability to do that.
Well, and I think it's just understanding your worth and your value, which I don't think I really did. And I think that, like, to say like I don't understand my worth or my value, like that sounds like really like I want to say, like, I don't know if sad, but like it sounds like very I guess maybe bigger than, I don't know, like it's more than just about like getting paid a certain amount of money.
You're right.
Or getting a certain job. Like,
you're right.
It had nothing, like I worked so hard to do those sorts of things to make up for this feeling inside me that said I wasn't enough and that I wasn't worthy. I didn't go to college. I whatever, you know, and like that was really the core of everything for me. It really had nothing to do with all this sort of stuff. And I've spent most of my life, as amazing life as it is, and I wouldn't change anything, but a lot of my drive and a lot of my motivation has been without grace, but actually with like trying to earn my and validate my existence, which is not of God. Like that's not how I was created.
That's right.
But it's been my experience, and it's been my experience for a reason. I believe that the way that I make that better is I can turn that into an asset. You know, I can turn my experience into something that people can identify with, and maybe, you know, like just like I'm beginning to have a new experience, and I have progressively, you know, like this has been a progressive thing. Like I've more and more and more and more and more I've realized my value and my worth. And, you know, so it's not to say that like it's just like a, you know, like I'm shit and then like I'm amazing. It's like I'm shit, I'm slightly better than shit, slightly a little better than that, and then a little better, and then a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, so it's been
exactly
a thing, but there still isn't quite that alignment of like, okay, this is like me, and this is like, I don't know, like I feel like there's more of like like I'm in alignment with where I should be,
Yeah.
in the way that I see myself and the way that I see myself in the world, and I see that people respond to me in the world and all that sort of stuff. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. Makes perfect sense. Perfect sense.
Whereas I feel like for so long I was just trying to grab to this space that I wasn't at yet,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, and now it's just kind of like, it's just, like if I can do that, like a straight line.
Yeah. And you're so right. And I didn't mean to go off on a work related or money related thing, 'cause that's not what I was going. So that was perfect. So yeah,
No.
people need to understand their worth.
Mhm.
Their I don't know, they're just their creative worth, or they're just, I don't even know how to put a word on it. Their whole package worth.
Right.
Because you're right, it's not about all that other stuff.
It plays out in everything though. Like, I mean, I
It
think of
sure
it,
does.
what you can look at, like for me, I can look at one thing and I can look like for me, it became really easy for me to see that at work and how I showed up. It was really easy for me to see that. I can see it now in my romantic and sexual relationships, that there has been this, like, again, like me coming to it as if I didn't have the value, like I didn't hold my, like I held my, I don't know, it was like I I settled for all I thought I could have, instead of reaching towards something bigger,
Yeah.
um, or better, or even just more in alignment with my, like my soul and my spirit.
Mhm.
Like, and it's not a, and that's, I think, the thing, like when we talk about worth and value, it's not a judgment call.
Right.
It's just the reality. Like, it's just the truth of where you're at. Like, it's not like, I'm not like a horrible person because I struggle with understanding my worth. Like, it's
No,
not,
you're not.
you know what I mean? Like, but
Yep,
I think
yep.
it's kind of perceived that, I don't know, it can be perceived that way.
Yep, culturally, you are right. That goes back to the difference between culture and life. So guess what? It's like
It's that
11:30.
almost, yeah,
And I
like,
feel like we have like 10 more things we can talk about.
yeah.
So,
Well, I think that's a good place to stop then, right?
yeah, I think so. I think so.
Right. Well, thank you everyone for like hanging in there with us today. That experimental song thing, I don't know if I'll do that again, but
It was fun. I enjoyed the song, so yay.
uh, let us know what you think. We didn't have as many people following along with us this week, so I don't know what that was, but that's all good. As always, we meet every Monday at 10:30 in the morning. We're live on Facebook and YouTube. And then we're uploaded then onto a podcast. And you can find us on any of your, any platform where you listen to a podcast. You should be able to find Splintered Grace. Yeah. What else was I? There was something else I was going to say, but thank you so much for listening. And again, we look forward to hearing from you all, whether there's things you'd like for us to talk about. If you have questions for us, we're really up to all of that. So
Yes.
thanks so much. Thanks again, Tina.
Yeah,
I love.
thank you. Thanks for having me. I really love this every week.
All right, and we'll talk
All
to you
right.
folks next time. Take
See you,
care.
everybody. Mwah.
Bye. And we're